dive into some serious sleep science. We're talking about the kind of stuff that changes how you think about hitting the hay.
Absolutely.
Why it's not just about feeling rested,
Right.
but about literally optimizing your brain and body.
What's fascinating is we often think about sleep as something that evolved to support our waking lives.
Right.
You know, like we sleep to be awake.
Yeah.
But the sources we have today suggest a completely different picture.
Okay, unpack that for me. So we're working with Dr. Matt Walker's interview on Huberman Lab, some University of Chicago research,
Yes.
and then like a whole stack of insights from Stanford, Harvard, and more.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. It all kind of ties together with this like mind-blowing idea. What if, instead of evolving to sleep,
Yeah.
we evolved from it?
Okay.
So imagine sleep as the original state, with wakefulness being a later development.
Whoa. That is a serious paradigm shift.
It is.
It's like saying the default setting isn't awake, it's asleep, and our brains had to develop ways to handle being conscious.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is really cool because that reframing helps make sense of some of sleep's seemingly counterintuitive aspects,
Okay.
especially REM sleep.
Yeah, like why on earth would our brains evolve to paralyze our bodies while our minds are off in dreamland? Dr. Walker in the Huberman Lab interview, he really zeroed in on this.
Yeah, and it's all about survival, really. I mean, think about it. If you acted out every dream, you wouldn't last long. That
Right.
dream where you're flying,
Out the window.
out the window you go.
Yeah.
End of story. End of passing on your genes. So REM sleep paralysis is basically evolution's way of saying, let's keep this wild subconscious stuff contained.
So it's not just about dreams being weird.
Right.
It's about our safety.
Yes, that's brilliant.
But it's also creepy.
It is kind of creepy when you think about it.
It is. But it also highlights how active sleep really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just downtime. It's
Right.
prime time for your brain and body to do some serious work behind the scenes.
Right.
And understanding the structure of this work is really key to seeing just how powerful sleep can be.
Okay, let's talk sleep architecture. That's the
Yeah.
whole symphony of cycles and stages that happen throughout the night.
Yes, exactly. So imagine a 90-minute loop,
Yep.
like a musical movement. Within that, you have this interplay of deep sleep and REM sleep, each with its own distinct brainwave patterns.
And physiological effects.
So it's like a carefully choreographed dance with deep sleep and REM sleep taking turns in the spotlight.
Precisely. And the choreography changes throughout the night.
Right.
Early on, deep sleep dominates.
Okay.
We're talking the first 4 hours or so.
Huh.
That's when your body cranks up the repair crew.
Okay.
You know, releasing growth hormone, fixing tissues, consolidating memories. If you're skimping on sleep, you're definitely shortchanging this crucial phase.
So those first 4 hours aren't just about feeling less groggy the next day.
Right.
It's about giving your body time for some serious maintenance.
Exactly. And then as the night progresses, REM sleep takes over.
Okay.
Think of it as your brain's emotional processing center, sifting through the day's events,
Okay.
consolidating memories, and even working through emotional knots. It's like overnight therapy, all while you're catching those Z's.
Okay, so the first half of the night is like a physical tune-up, and the second half is all about mental and emotional housekeeping.
Yes,
That's wild.
it is.
And Dr. Walker really stressed how important it is to stick to a consistent wake-up time to keep these cycles running smoothly.
Absolutely. That consistency is key for regulating your circadian rhythm, which acts as the conductor
Yeah.
of your sleep-wake cycle.
Right, the circadian rhythm. It's not just about sleep. It's connected to all sorts of bodily functions, from hormone release to body temperature.
It's like your internal master clock.
Yeah.
And light is one of its most powerful cues.
Okay.
Specifically, morning light acts as a signal to your brain to hit the brakes on melatonin production.
Melatonin, that's our body's natural sleep potion, right? The one that makes you feel all drowsy when the sun starts to set.
Exactly. And it's not
Yeah.
just about how much sleep you're getting, but also the quality of that sleep. Sleep fragmentation, even if you're clocking in enough hours,
Okay.
can leave you feeling just as drained as if you had pulled an all-nighter.
So even if I'm in bed for 8 hours, if I'm waking up every hour because my neighbor's dog won't stop barking,
Yes.
I'm not getting the restorative benefits of a good night's sleep.
Unfortunately, no. Those middle-of-the-night wake-ups, even if they're short,
Right.
throw off your sleep architecture, cutting into those crucial deep sleeps and REM cycles.
It's like hitting the pause button on your sleep symphony right in the middle of a beautiful movement.
It is.
You might eventually get back to the music,
Yeah.
but it won't be the same. What are some signs that someone might be dealing with poor sleep quality?
Well, waking up frequently is a big one, as we've discussed.
Okay.
but also not feeling refreshed even after a full night's sleep.
Right.
If you find yourself reaching for that third cup of coffee
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to function,
Right.
that's a sign that something's off with your sleep quality.
So it's not just about the quantity of sleep, but the quality that counts.
Yes.
And speaking of things that can mess with our sleep, let's talk about those sneaky sleep saboteurs. The things we might not even realize are impacting our sleep.
Right, like that afternoon cup of coffee that seems harmless,
Oh, yeah.
but can actually have a surprisingly long blast radius when it comes to your sleep.
Caffeine.
Yes.
Classic sleep disruptor. But what do you mean by blast radius? Tell me more about that.
Well, caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours,
Okay.
meaning even if you have your last cup at 4 p.m., a significant amount is still buzzing around your system
Wow.
and your brain at like 10 p.m.
So that afternoon latte is basically a ticking time bomb for your sleep schedule?
It is.
It's like it lulls you into a false sense of security, and then bam, it hits you when you're trying to wind down. No wonder I can't resist scrolling on my phone when I should be sleeping.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about light being a powerful signal for our circadian rhythm?
Yes.
Well, that blue light emitted from your phone.
Uh-oh.
It's like shining a virtual sun right in your face.
It's like I'm working against myself here. I try to be healthy, get to the gym in the morning for some natural light,
Right.
but then I sabotage myself with my phone at night.
Right. Speaking of the gym,
Yeah.
Dr. Walker mentioned in his interview that he actually chose his gym based on its east-facing windows, just for that morning sunlight.
He's serious about optimizing his sleep.
He clearly is,
Wow.
but it just drives home the point. Light is a powerful tool, both for good and bad sleep.
For sure.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered light, caffeine.
Yeah.
What about alcohol? That's another one that always seems to come up in conversations about sleep.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Alcohol, the deceptive sleep aid.
Right.
While it might help you nod off initially,
Yeah.
it wreaks havoc on your sleep architecture later in the night.
Oh, no.
It's like bulldozing through a carefully constructed building.
Right.
You might end up with something that resembles sleep, but it's not going to be pretty.
It's like taking a shortcut that ends up leading you further away from your destination.
Exactly. Alcohol disrupts your sleep cycles, especially deep sleep.
Okay.
So you're missing out on those crucial restorative processes.
Right.
You might sleep through the night, but you won't wake up feeling refreshed.
Okay, so caffeine and alcohol are both off the table if I want to prioritize my sleep.
It seems so.
What about all those supplements I keep hearing about? Like magnesium, for instance.
Magnesium's an interesting one. It's involved in so many bodily processes,
Right.
and it does play a role in muscle relaxation.
Right.
Some people find it helpful for sleep,
Yeah.
but the research is mixed.
So it's not a magical cure-all,
Right.
but it might help some people.
Exactly.
Hmm.
A lot of the studies that do show benefits often involve older adults with a magnesium deficiency.
Interesting.
So not a bad idea to talk to your doctor about it. But don't expect it to miraculously fix all your sleep problems.
What about tart cherry juice? That seems to be gaining some traction in the sleep world.
Now that's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Tart cherries are naturally rich in melatonin,
Okay.
and they contain other compounds that could promote sleep.
Okay, so there's some scientific backing to it.
Yeah.
What have the studies shown?
Well, the research is still in its early stages, but there are some promising findings.
Okay.
A few small studies have shown that tart cherry juice might increase sleep time
Okay.
and even improve sleep quality in some people.
Interesting. It's like nature's own sleep elixir.
It's certainly an intriguing area of research.
Yeah.
And definitely a tastier option than some of the other sleep aids out there.
Right, right. Okay, so we've talked about things that can disrupt our sleep, but what about the things we can do to actually improve our sleep?
Yes.
Aside from ditching the afternoon coffee and the nightcap,
Right.
of course.
One of the most powerful things you can do is establish a consistent wind-down routine.
You mean like a bedtime routine, but for adults?
Exactly. Think of it like landing a plane,
Okay.
not flicking light switch.
Right.
You can't go from 100 to in an instant.
Right.
You need to gradually downshift your brain and body into a restful state.
Dr. Walker talked about creating a worry journal.
Yes.
What is that?
Oh, it's a fantastic technique for managing those mental loops that keep you up at night.
Tell me about it.
You know,
Yes.
that endless to-do list, replaying that awkward conversation in your head.
Oh, yes. I'm very familiar.
Yes. So the idea is to get those worries out of your head and onto paper before you climb into bed.
Yeah, okay.
It's like closing all your mental tabs for the night,
Right.
freeing up space for rest and relaxation.
Less rumination, more rest. I love it. What about those inevitable bad nights, though? We all have them. Those nights where sleep just doesn't seem to come.
Even with the best sleep hygiene, we're bound to have those nights,
Right.
but there are ways to manage them.
Okay.
Dr. Walker calls it the sleep sandwich technique.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's on the menu for this sleep sandwich?
The key is to resist the urge to oversleep after a bad night.
Okay.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but trust me on this.
So even if I'm completely exhausted, I shouldn't sleep in.
As tempting as it is, try to stick to your regular wake-up time. Then, later in the day, aim for a short afternoon nap to make up for some of that lost sleep.
So I'm essentially sandwiching that bad night between two good sleep days.
Exactly.
That's clever.
It helps to maintain the consistency of your sleep-wake cycle,
Right.
which is crucial for getting back on track.
You know, we often talk about sleep as if it's just an individual thing, like
Uh-huh.
brushing your teeth or something.
Yeah.
But it turns out sleep, or the lack of it, has much wider implications, right?
It does. It really does. You're right. We often think about, oh, I need to get my sleep.
Right.
I got to get my sleep. But sleep debt, especially when it becomes a chronic issue, has a ripple effect that goes far beyond the individual.
Wow.
It becomes a societal issue.
We've talked about the individual benefits of sleep, like improved mood and cognitive function. But what about the societal impact of sleep deprivation?
Well, for starters, there's a clear link between sleep loss and workplace accidents,
Yeah.
reduced productivity, and even increased healthcare costs.
It's like a domino effect, starting with one tired employee and potentially impacting a whole company or even a whole industry.
Exactly. And then there's the social justice aspect.
Okay.
Sleep disparities, meaning differences in sleep quality and duration,
Right.
are often linked to socioeconomic factors.
So certain groups of people are more likely to experience poor sleep due to circumstances beyond their control?
Exactly. Things like noisy environments, job demands like shift work, stress from discrimination, these can all contribute to sleep disparities.
Wow.
It's about recognizing that everyone deserves the opportunity for quality sleep, regardless of their background or circumstances.
That's a really powerful point. You know, when we hear about sleep deprivation, we often think about those dramatic examples.
Right.
The sleep-deprived truck driver or the overworked doctor. But there's another sleep disorder that's often misunderstood and misrepresented and even treated like a joke sometimes. Narcolepsy.
Yeah, it's true. Narcolepsy often gets played for laughs in movies and TV shows,
Yeah.
but it's a very real neurological disorder that significantly impacts people's lives.
So what exactly is narcolepsy and what causes it?
It's not just about feeling sleepy. People with narcolepsy experience excessive daytime sleepiness,
Okay.
even after a full night's sleep.
Wow.
And it can involve sudden sleep attacks, which can be incredibly dangerous if they occur at the wrong time, like while driving, for instance. So
Right.
it's not just an inconvenience. It can be downright dangerous.
Yeah.
And the cause is still not fully understood, but it's thought to be related to a deficiency in a brain chemical called hypocretin, which plays a role in regulating wakefulness.
So it's not just about willpower or needing a good night's rest. There's an actual biological basis for it.
Exactly.
Wow. And while there's no cure for narcolepsy, are there treatments available?
Yes, there are treatments available that can help people manage their symptoms and live relatively normal lives.
That's good to hear. We've covered a lot of ground here in this first part of our deep dive into sleep, from the evolutionary reasons we sleep
Well, yeah.
to the very real societal impact of sleep deprivation.
Yeah, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of this fascinating field.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore, from the science behind those bizarre dreams
Yeah.
to the latest research on sleep disorders and what we can do to get a better night's rest. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break.
You know, we were talking about narcolepsy before, and one of the things that came up in the research was this phenomenon called sleep paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
It does, doesn't it? It definitely has that eerie, unsettling vibe.
Yeah.
Imagine this.
Okay.
You wake up in the middle of the night, but you can't move a muscle.
Oh, gosh.
You're completely conscious, but you're trapped, paralyzed in your own body.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
What's going on in the brain during sleep paralysis?
It's actually related to that REM sleep muscle paralysis we were talking about earlier.
Basically, your mind is caught between dreamland and wakefulness.
Yeah. Oh.
Your brain is waking up,
Right.
but it hasn't quite given your body the all clear to move yet.
So your brain is still stuck in that let's not act out our dreams mode,
Yes.
even though you're partially awake.
Exactly. And to make things even creepier, sleep paralysis can often be accompanied by hallucinations.
Oh, no.
You might see shadowy figures or hear strange noises,
Oh, my God.
which just amplifies the fear factor.
No wonder people find it so unsettling.
It's definitely
But
unsettling.
you said it's harmless, right?
It is. Sleep paralysis is temporary and harmless,
Okay.
even though it definitely doesn't feel that way in the moment.
Right.
But knowing a little about the science behind it can actually make it less scary if it ever happens to you.
Okay. Good to know. Now, shifting gears a bit, I was fascinated by the research linking sleep to our metabolism.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, getting enough shut-eye isn't just about fitting into our favorite genes.
It's not. It's so much more than that.
Right.
The connection between sleep and our metabolism runs deep.
Okay.
There's this whole cascade of hormonal changes that happen while we sleep,
Right.
influencing things like appetite, blood sugar regulation,
Okay.
and even how our bodies store fat.
So not getting enough sleep is like throwing a wrench into our body's metabolic machinery.
It really is.
Wow.
One study from the University of Chicago found that people who consistently slept poorly,
Oh.
or for short durations, were at a significantly higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes
Oh, wow.
and obesity.
That's a pretty compelling reason to prioritize sleep. What exactly is happening in the body to explain this connection?
Well, when we're sleep deprived, our bodies tend to produce more of the stress hormone cortisol,
Right.
which, as you know, can increase our appetite and make us crave sugary, fatty foods.
So it's like our bodies go into survival mode, wanting to stock up on energy reserves
Yes.
because we're running on fumes.
Exactly.
Right.
And to make matters worse, sleep deprivation also messes with our hormones that regulate blood sugar levels,
Okay.
like insulin.
Right.
This means our bodies aren't as efficient at using and storing glucose,
Okay.
which can eventually lead to insulin resistance and an increased risk of type 2 diabetes.
It's like a double whammy for our metabolic health.
It is.
We're craving the wrong foods and our bodies aren't processing them as efficiently.
You got it. It really highlights how sleep is this like fundamental building block of our overall health.
Right.
You know, it's not just about feeling rested.
Yeah.
It's about keeping our bodies functioning optimally
Yeah.
from the inside out.
And it's not just our physical health that takes a hit when we skimp on sleep.
Right.
I was particularly struck by the research on sleep and our immune system.
Yes. The connection between sleep and immunity is a vital one.
Yeah.
And, you know, researchers are learning more all the time about the intricate ways these systems interact.
One expert from Harvard talked about how sleep deprivation can make us more susceptible to infections.
Yes.
How does that work exactly?
Well, while we sleep, our bodies produce proteins called cytokines,
Okay.
which help fight off inflammation and infection. When we don't get enough sleep, our production of these protective proteins takes a nosedive,
Oh, no.
leaving our immune system weakened and vulnerable.
So it's like our sleep-deprived bodies are ill-equipped to fight off those nasty bugs
Yes.
that are constantly trying to invade.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting sick more easily.
Right.
It's also about how well our bodies can fight off infections once we have them.
Okay.
There's even research showing that people who are sleep deprived before getting a flu shot
Yeah.
produce a weaker antibody response,
Wow.
meaning they're not getting the same level of protection from the vaccine.
That's incredible.
It is.
It makes you wonder if we should be factoring in sleep when it comes to things like vaccine schedules.
It's a fascinating area of research.
Yep.
And it highlights how important it is to prioritize sleep, especially during flu season
Right.
or when we're feeling run down.
Speaking of feeling run down, let's talk about the impact of sleep on our emotional well-being.
Okay.
I know when I'm sleep deprived,
Yeah.
I'm a lot more likely to snap at my partner or get easily frustrated.
Sure.
It's not pretty.
You're definitely not alone in that.
Yeah.
Sleep plays this crucial role in regulating our emotions
Okay.
and building resilience to stress
Hey.
when we consistently skimp on sleep.
Yeah.
It's like we're stretching our emotional rubber band thinner and thinner
Right.
until it eventually snaps.
So it's not just about feeling grumpy.
Yeah.
It's about our ability to handle life's curveballs.
Exactly. There's this fascinating area of research looking at how sleep deprivation affects a specific part of the brain called the amygdala.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. It basically goes haywire when we're sleep deprived, right?
Exactly. Studies show that when we were sleep deprived, the amygdala becomes hyperactive,
Right.
meaning we react more strongly to negative stimuli,
Right.
even if they're minor.
So little things that wouldn't normally faze us
Right.
suddenly feel like major stressors.
Precisely.
Right.
And this heightened reactivity can make it even harder to fall asleep and stay asleep,
Oh, man.
creating this vicious cycle of
Right.
sleep deprivation and emotional instability.
So getting enough sleep isn't just about having enough energy to power through our day.
Right.
It's about having the emotional bandwidth to navigate the ups and downs of life.
Absolutely. Sleep is like giving our emotional selves a much-needed time out, a
Yeah.
chance to rest, recharge, and then face the next day with a bit more resilience.
And this is especially crucial for kids and teenagers, right? Their brains are still developing.
Yes,
And I imagine sleep plays a huge role in that process.
you're absolutely right. Sleep is like a superfood for growing brains.
Okay.
During sleep, children's brains are busy consolidating memories, making connections between new information,
Right.
strengthening cognitive skills, you name it.
So if a child is consistently sleep deprived, it's like they're missing out on those crucial brain building opportunities.
Exactly.
Wow.
One study found that preschoolers who missed their nap forgot up to 18% of what they'd learned that day.
Wow, that's huge. What about teenagers?
Yeah,
They seem to have their own unique sleep patterns.
they do.
Often staying up late and sleeping in.
Yes.
Is that just teenage angst? Or
Look,
is there something else going on?
it's not just teenage angst, although that certainly plays a role.
Right.
There's actually a biological reason for their shifted sleep schedules.
Okay, tell me more about that.
During adolescence, there's a shift in the circadian rhythm,
Okay.
pushing their natural sleep-wake cycle later.
Okay.
This means they naturally feel more alert in the evening and sleepier in the morning.
So those early school start times are basically working against their biology?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's no wonder so many teenagers are chronically sleep deprived.
Right.
And this sleep deprivation can affect everything from their mood and alertness
Yeah.
to their academic performance and even their mental health.
It makes you wonder if we should be rethinking those early school start times, especially for high schoolers.
Right. There's a growing body of research suggesting that later school start times, even by just 30 minutes,
Wow.
can lead to significant improvements in sleep duration, alertness,
Okay.
and even academic performance in teenagers.
So it's about aligning school schedules with their natural sleep patterns
Yes.
rather than fighting against their biology.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that teenagers have different sleep needs than adults
Right.
and creating environments that support their optimal development.
And speaking of sleep,
Yeah.
we can't forget about dreams.
Oh, yes.
Dreams.
There's such a weird and wonderful part of the sleep experience.
They are those enigmatic nighttime adventures that have fascinated humans for centuries, right?
They can be so vivid, so bizarre, so emotionally charged.
They are.
Yes.
One of the experts mentioned a theory called the activation synthesis model.
Yes.
What's that all about?
It's one of the leading theories on why we dream.
You okay?
It suggests that dreams are basically our brain's way of making sense of random neural activities that happens during REM sleep.
Okay, so our brains are essentially creating a story out of the electrical noise.
That's the gist of it. It's not necessarily about, like, deep meaning or
Okay.
hidden messages,
Right.
but more about our brain's natural tendency to find patterns
Okay.
and create narratives,
Right.
even in the absence of coherent input.
So our dreams might be bizarre,
Right.
but at least our brains are getting some creative writing practice in.
Exactly. But it's important to note that other theories suggest dreams do serve a purpose.
Potentially helping us process emotions, consolidate memories, or even work through unresolved conflicts.
So it's like our brains are doing some overnight emotional processing while we sleep.
Precisely. And some therapists even use dream analysis as a tool to help people tap into their subconscious thoughts and feelings.
Interesting. So while we might not have all the answers about why we dream, it's clear that they're an important part of our sleep experience.
Absolutely. And who knows? Maybe there are still hidden treasures waiting to be discovered in the realm of dreams.
Now, we can't talk about sleep without mentioning sleep disorders.
Right.
We've already touched on narcolepsy,
Yes.
but there are many other conditions that can disrupt our sleep and impact our overall health and well-being.
That's right. Sleep disorders are far more common than many people realize.
Yeah. And they encompass this wide range of conditions, each with its own unique set of symptoms and challenges.
One that caught my attention was REM sleep behavior disorder, or RBD.
Oh,
This
yes.
sounds pretty intense.
It can be. Remember how we talked about REM sleep paralysis?
Yes.
That safety mechanism that prevents us from acting out our dreams.
Yes, I remember that.
Well, in RBD, that paralysis mechanism malfunctions.
Okay.
People with this condition actually act out their dreams,
Oh, wow.
often quite vividly.
So they're physically moving, talking, maybe even yelling in their sleep.
Exactly. It can range from mild movements to like full-on thrashing, kicking, punching,
Wow.
you name it.
And because they're typically dreaming about something exciting or frightening,
Yes,
their movements can be quite forceful and even dangerous, both to themselves and anyone who shares their bed.
it's true. It is true.
That's incredible. It's like the line between dreaming and wakefulness completely blurs.
Exactly.
And while it might sound amusing at first,
Yeah.
RBD can be a sign of a more serious underlying neurological condition,
Right.
like Parkinson's disease.
Exactly.
So it's not something to be taken lightly.
No, it's not.
It's definitely something you'd want to talk to your doctor about.
Absolutely. Early diagnosis and treatment are crucial for managing symptoms
Right.
and addressing any underlying health conditions.
Now, another sleep disorder we hear a lot about, and one that often gets misrepresented, is sleepwalking.
Yes. Sleepwalking or somnambulism is another fascinating sleep disorder where that line between sleep and wakefulness blurs,
Right.
though in a different way than RBD.
It's one of those things that people often joke about, but it can actually be quite serious, can't it?
It certainly can. While it might seem like harmless wandering,
Yeah.
people who sleepwalk can engage in surprisingly complex behaviors.
Okay.
They might cook meals, get dressed, even drive a car.
Wait, driving a car
Yeah.
while asleep? That's terrifying.
It is a scary thought.
Wow.
Thankfully, it's relatively rare.
Okay.
And people who sleepwalk usually don't remember their actions the next morning.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But it highlights the importance of taking sleepwalking seriously
Right.
and taking precautions if you or someone you know sleepwalks.
What kind of precautions are we talking about?
Simple things like making sure the sleepwalking environment is safe,
Okay.
remove any obstacles,
Okay.
secure windows and doors,
Right.
and consider installing alarms or chimes
Right.
to alert you if someone is wandering at night.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about mitigating the risks, especially while we're sleeping and not in control of our actions.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you suspect you or someone you love is sleepwalking, it's important to talk to a doctor
Okay.
to rule out any underlying medical conditions
Right.
and discuss treatment options.
Okay. Good advice. Now, there's one more sleep disorder I want to make sure we cover, and that's insomnia.
Yes. Insomnia is a very common sleep disorder,
Right.
affecting millions of people worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's more than just an occasional bad night's sleep.
Right.
It's a persistent pattern of difficulty falling asleep,
Right.
staying asleep, or both.
So it's not just about feeling tired the next day.
Right.
It's about a chronic lack of sleep that can have serious consequences for your health and well-being.
Exactly. Insomnia can wreak havoc on your mood, your concentration, your energy levels,
Yeah.
you name it.
Right.
It can even increase your risk of accidents, injuries, and other health problems.
What causes insomnia? Is it just stress, or can there be other factors involved?
Stress is certainly a major culprit,
Okay.
but insomnia can also be caused by a wide range of factors,
Yeah.
including medical conditions, certain medications, poor sleep habits,
Right.
and even underlying sleep disorders like restless leg syndrome or sleep apnea.
So it's important to figure out the root cause of the insomnia rather than just treating the symptoms.
Absolutely. There are effective treatments for insomnia,
Okay.
but the best approach depends on that underlying cause.
Right.
Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI,
Right.
is often the first line of treatment.
How does CBTI help with insomnia?
It's a type of therapy that helps you identify and change negative thoughts and behaviors that are contributing to your sleep problems.
Okay.
It's like retraining your brain to associate bed with sleep
Okay.
rather than with worry and frustration.
Interesting. So it's not just about relaxation techniques or sleep hygiene. It's about addressing the underlying thought patterns that are fueling the insomnia.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And in some cases, medications might be prescribed
Right.
for short-term relief, but the focus is usually on developing those healthy sleep habits
Right.
and addressing that underlying cause of the insomnia.
That makes sense. Now, speaking of other sleep disorders, one that we haven't talked about yet is obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA.
Oh, yes, OSA.
I know a few people who use CPAP machines,
Right.
but I'm not really sure what that's all about.
OSA is a serious sleep disorder that affects millions of people,
Okay.
and it often goes undiagnosed.
What exactly happens in the body when someone has sleep apnea?
Essentially, your airway becomes partially or completely blocked while you sleep,
Wow.
causing you to stop breathing for short periods.
Wait, stop breathing?
Yes.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. It's definitely not something to ignore.
Wow.
These breathing pauses or apneas usually last for a few seconds to a minute,
Okay.
and they often end with a loud gasp or snort, as you start breathing again.
So even though I might not be consciously aware of it, my body's going through this repeated cycle of stopped breathing throughout the night?
Exactly. And this constant disruption to your sleep can have serious consequences for your health,
Yeah.
increasing your risk of high blood pressure, heart disease,
Yeah.
stroke,
Oh.
even depression.
Wow. That's a scary list of health problems. How do you even know if you have sleep apnea?
Loud snoring is a big red flag,
Okay.
especially if it's punctuated by gasping or choking sounds.
Okay.
Other common symptoms include excessive daytime sleepiness, morning headaches, difficulty concentrating,
Right.
and even waking up feeling like you're choking or gasping for air.
Okay, so if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, it's definitely time to talk to your doctor.
Absolutely. The good news is that OSA is treatable,
Okay, good.
and early diagnosis and treatment can significantly reduce your risk of developing those serious health complications.
What are the treatment options for sleep apnea?
The gold standard treatment is continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP therapy,
Okay.
which involves wearing a mask over your nose or
Oh.
nose and mouth while you sleep.
Right.
The mask is connected to a machine that delivers this constant stream of air pressure, keeping your airway open throughout the night.
That's right, the CPAP machines. I've seen those, but I always imagined they'd be uncomfortable to sleep with.
It might seem a little intimidating at first,
Yeah.
but most people adjust to it quickly, and the benefits far outweigh any initial discomfort.
Right.
CPAP therapy is highly effective in treating sleep apnea,
Good.
improving sleep quality, and reducing the risk of those long-term health complications we talked about.
That's good to know. So if you're struggling with any of those sleep apnea symptoms, don't suffer in silence.
Talk to your doctor.
Right.
Exactly.
And see if CPAP therapy might be right for you.
Yes. Sleep apnea is a serious condition,
Yeah.
but it's manageable with the right treatment.
You know, it's amazing how much we've learned about sleep, even just in the past few decades. The whole new frontier of health and wellness.
It really is. And as we delve deeper into the science of sleep, we're gaining this whole new appreciation for its profound impact on every aspect of our lives.
Right.
From our physical health to our cognitive function, our emotional well-being, even our social interactions.
And we're not done yet. There's still so much more to explore.
Stay tuned, because in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into some fascinating sleep strategies, debunk some common sleep myths,
Okay.
and leave you with some actionable tips to improve your sleep tonight.
Don't miss it. All right, we're back for more sleep talk.
The final stretch.
You know, one thing we haven't really gotten into yet is this idea of sleep as a social justice issue. It's not something we usually think about,
Right.
but it makes a lot of sense when you consider the research.
It does. It's a crucial aspect of the sleep conversation
Yeah.
that often gets overlooked.
Right.
And it's just this reality that access to quality sleep is not equally distributed.
Right, so we're talking about those sleep disparities we touched on earlier, where certain populations are just facing more challenges when it comes to getting a good night's rest.
Yes. And we talked about how things like noisy environments, demanding work schedules, chronic stress,
Right.
all of those impact sleep. And those factors are often magnified
Yeah.
for people, say, living in poverty,
Right.
working night shifts,
Right.
or facing discrimination.
It's like those inequalities kind of seep into something as fundamental as sleep, and then it creates this vicious cycle.
It does. It does.
Because then the lack of sleep can lead to poorer health outcomes,
Right.
reduced cognitive function, maybe even mental health challenges.
Absolutely.
And that can make it even harder to kind of break free from those systemic barriers.
Is it true?
So sleep deprivation, it becomes both a symptom and a contributing factor to those inequalities.
Yes.
What can we do to address this?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
It requires a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
On an individual level, we can advocate for fair labor practices,
Okay.
like limiting consecutive night shifts,
Right.
ensuring adequate rest breaks for shift workers, things like that.
So it's about supporting those who are really on the front lines of these sleep disparities.
Exactly.
And then what about on a broader kind of societal level?
Well, we need policies that promote affordable housing in safe and healthy environments.
Okay.
We need to reduce exposure to noise and light pollution,
Right.
increase access to quality health care, including mental health services.
So it's about creating a world where everyone has a fair shot
Yes,
at a good night's rest, regardless of their zip code or their income.
it is.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about those nights
Okay.
where, despite our best efforts. We're
Yeah.
tossing, we're turning, we're staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
What can we do when those inevitable bad nights strike?
Well, it's bound to happen.
Right.
Even with the best sleep hygiene, there will be nights when sleep eludes us.
Right.
The key is having a strategy in place
Good.
to minimize the damage and get back on track.
One expert suggested something called the sleep sandwich.
The sleep sandwich, yes.
It sounds intriguing, but I'm not sure I fully get it.
Well, the idea is to resist the urge to sleep in after a bad night,
Okay.
even though it feels like the most natural thing in the world.
So even if I'm dragging myself through the day, I should stick to my usual wake-up time.
It's so tempting to hit the snooze button,
It is.
but try your best to wake up at your regular time,
Yeah.
and then later in the day,
Yeah.
aim for a strategic nap,
Okay.
a short 20 to 30-minute power nap in the early afternoon.
So I'm essentially sandwiching that bad night of sleep between two good days, hence the sleep sandwich.
Precisely.
That's fascinating.
It is.
It seems counterintuitive,
It does.
but it makes sense.
It does.
You're basically reinforcing that consistent sleep schedule.
Exactly. Consistency is key when it comes to sleep.
Now, another thing that a lot of us struggle with, especially in our, always-on world,
Yes.
is that temptation to use electronic devices right before bed.
It's so hard.
Oh, I know. I'm guilty of it.
Aren't we all?
Right.
Those glowing screens have become such a ubiquitous part of our lives,
Yeah.
but they're a major sleep saboteur.
Why is that? Is it just the mental stimulation of, scrolling through social media, or is there something else at play?
It's actually the light itself that's the main culprit.
Okay.
Our devices, they emit blue light, which, as you know,
Yeah.
our brains interpret as daylight.
Right. We talked about blue light earlier in the context of morning light,
Yes.
how it helps regulate our circadian rhythm,
Right.
but in the evening, it has the opposite effect.
Exactly. That blue light exposure at night suppresses melatonin production,
Right.
making it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Right.
It's like telling your brain it's time to wake up,
Right.
just when you should be winding down.
So even if we're just reading a book on our tablet or catching up on emails, that
Yeah.
blue light is messing with our sleep.
Unfortunately, yes. And while some devices now have night mode settings that reduce blue light emissions,
Right.
it's still best to avoid screens altogether
Okay.
for at least an hour or two before bed.
So no more late night Netflix binges or scrolling through social media in bed.
I know it's tough.
I know it's hard, but I'm willing to try it for sure.
Your sleep will thank you for it.
Okay, before we sign off, I'd love to hear some of your, key takeaways
Yes.
from our sleep deep dive. What are some, parting words of wisdom you can leave our listeners with?
Well, first and foremost, I hope this deep dive has highlighted just how important sleep is
Yeah.
for our overall health and well-being.
Right. It's not just about feeling rested.
Exactly.
It's about allowing our bodies and our minds to really do their essential restorative work.
Yes, it's about investing in our long-term health and happiness.
And so I guess the second takeaway would be that quality sleep is not a luxury.
It's not. It's a necessity.
Right. Just like we prioritize nutritious food and regular exercise,
Right.
we need to prioritize sleep and
Okay.
create habits that support that.
Absolutely.
It's about making sleep a non-negotiable part of our routine.
Yes, love that.
And then I guess finally,
Yeah.
I would just encourage everyone listening to be curious about their own sleep. Pay attention to how you feel after different amounts of sleep. Experiment with different sleep routines.
Yeah,
And if you have concerns, talk to your doctor.
absolutely.
It's about becoming our own sleep advocates.
Yes.
And making choices that support our sleep health.
Well said.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off and catch some Z's ourselves.
Yes. Sweet dreams, everyone.
Sleep